There are still billions of dollars available for businesses through the Employee Retention Credit Federal Tax Credit Program. Stenson Tamadon has helped companies with less than 500 employees retrieve over $3.4 billion in tax credits through employee retention credits. Call Stenson Tamadon today at 866-934-8461 today to start your application. That's 866-934-8461 to apply. Call now.
Welcome to an AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney, and today my guest is Troy Spring, the founder of Dealer World. Welcome, Troy.
Hi, Brian. How have you been?
I've been really good, and in fact, a lot of it is because of you.
Come on. What do you mean by that?
About 12 years ago,
Yeah.
you and I were at a trade show,
Yeah.
and you shared with me the type of lotion that you used in the evenings before you went to bed.
Burt's Bees. Yeah,
Yes.
Burt's Bees. Yeah.
And almost the whole AutoSuccess team started using it.
No way.
Yeah, believe it or not, I just turned 65.
Well, that's good. Well, I'm 73.
Yep, you just had your birthday, right?
I did, yeah. I'm not really 73, but
Yeah.
54.
54.
Yeah.
That's like not quite almost 60.
Well, listen, I do credit Burt's Bees a little bit to the fact that I don't think I look 54 at this point. I don't know. I got a lot of grays, but Burt's Bees helped me, fight the aging process a little bit. Interesting that the whole AutoSuccess team started using it. I love that.
Yep. No, I still do.
Well, you do look good, pal. You
Thank
don't
you,
look 65, that's for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, you look good too. So yeah, let's get started.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about your experience in automotive.
Yeah.
What you're doing now, and how you got there.
It's a funny story. It's so far removed at this point. I sold my first car when I was 18 years old. I owed my dad $500 because my sales abilities, knocking on doors, selling frozen foods for rich plan of northern New England didn't go all that well. So I found myself in a hole. I found this ad that said they were hiring for salespeople. I actually think my dad sent it to me. He said, if you want to sell, maybe you should try cars. And so I went to that interview, and something that I thought was cool is the sales manager was 24 years old. I was 18, and he was interviewing me. Mm-hmm. And his demo, his IROC Z, was out front, right? And
cool.
Yeah, and I thought, man, I don't know, I'm already kind of liking this vibe. So he said, why should I hire you? I said, what other 18-year-old kid do you know that just read How to Master the Art of Selling by Tom Hopkins and Zig Ziglar's Secrets to Closing the Sale, and I think I even read Trump's Art of the Deal or something like that. And he's like, "You're hired." And so that's how I got into the business. And what was really cool was, it turned out I was good at it, and I enjoyed every single second of it. I had a lot of really good mentors and managers in my early days. Mm-hmm. So fast forward now 35 years. Because I think June was my 35th year in the business. I've got Dealer World now.
Yep.
We're national. Kind of backtrack that just a little bit to when you and I started talking. When you met me, I had no employees. I was operating out of a little 400 or 500 square foot office and just getting my company started. That was right around 2009 or 10. I think you and I met because I started Dealer World in 2009. But now, fast forward to today, we've got dealers from New York to California. We've got from independents to the highest line of exotics that you can imagine. We're working with 29 different brands, and things are really good. I mean, I'm just very, very, very pleased with how that last couple of decades or decade and a half has gone. So it's gone really well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How's your pickleball game?
So I'm going to correct you on that. I don't have pickleball at my house.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, let's be careful. We don't want to. Don't offend us pop tennis players.
Okay.
So no, it's so pickleball is like a movement like this, right? It's kind of like a wooden paddle with a wiffle ball, and you kind of just have So when I put the basketball court in, I asked the guy from the company Sport Court. I asked him. I said, "Hey, listen, can you put a pickleball court in too, and line it for pickleball and put up a net?" And he goes, "You don't want pickleball. You're not old enough for that." And so what was funny was he was right, because I would have enjoyed that. I have actually never played pickleball, but it looks fun. Mm-hmm. Long story short, pop tennis is a real tennis ball, but a junior decompressed ball that you hit with a decompressed racket. And so it's more of an actual swinging and a true tennis game, but played on a smaller court because it's decompressed. It's a little bit more fast-paced, a little bit more aggressive because you can spin it and you can really kind of swing at it. So yeah, we play pop tennis, and my pop tennis game is on point.
It's on point?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at it.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah. Well, we play as much as we can. It's kind of fun. It was definitely an addition to putting in a basketball court for the kids, and something that I like to do. So you got to come up and play.
Nice. I will.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah, you don't live that far away.
No, not actually. Not that far.
Yeah.
So let's get back to dealer world.
Yeah.
Tell us just a little bit about what you do with dealers, for dealers, how you help dealers.
Yeah, I mean, really, at the core, I suppose people would associate us or kind of lump us into an ad agency. Dealer World, I suppose at its core is an ad agency. But we consider ourselves very consultative and very performance orientated. So we're a performance consulting advertising agency. We have 36, 37 employees right now. The kind of cool thing is that we have less than 3 rooftops for every employee. So we're being a services company, we're really big on the level of service that we're able to give a client and the scope of agreement that we're able to give them. So we're kind of a one-stop shop. We do everything. I kind of joke sometimes. We're everywhere from newspaper to TikTok. We do it all. I think we do it all really well. So from that standpoint, everything in between: radio, television, in-house production of all of that, all the script writing, all the trafficking to the stations, all of that, the media buying, everything basically Google, everything Facebook, all the way again to Instagram and TikTok socially. Then we do a lot of website performance reviews and making sure that the website's performing at a really high level and optimizing that performance. That's a gap that we found, a small little rabbit hole I'll go down.
Yeah.
That's a hole that we found that I think a lot of dealers are really missing. Is they've got an agency pushing traffic to a site, and then they've got a website provider. They provide them with a site and inventory feeds and all of that. But who's really looking at the conversion rates and the setup of that website? What got me going on that was during COVID, when that first started and we're all working from home and we all had a little extra time on our hands, and heck, some of our dealers were even shut down, right? Almost all of them, they weren't really doing much. So I started looking at the disruptors' websites, the CarMaxes, the Carvanas, the Rooms, the Shifts, the Pedals, etc. And I kind of noticed a common theme, that their sites were just easier to navigate, and they had less conversion points. So long story short, we do a lot of website optimization based upon the research that we did, some A/B testing that we did, and trying to get an ability to maximize the performance of a website as well. And so that's why I don't really consider us just an ad agency. But again, from newspaper to TikTok, from independents to exotics, New York to California, we're doing it all, and we've been very, very blessed. We have a very high retention rate of our clients. So we've got a lot of good, deep, and meaningful relationships, which makes the day a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
And so since you met us, we've grown every single year, but we still work with about 80 stores. So we're still boutique in a sense. That size. But that's with growth every year. So it's kind of slow and methodical. So yeah, that's Dealer World in a nutshell.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned conversion.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before, but can you tell me a little bit more about the first conversion, why it's important, what it is?
Yeah, I could talk all day about that. I think as I was sitting back and looking at those websites and the conversion rates and things of that nature, a lot of it had to do with the psychology of why a website might be set up with less conversion points, but yet get more conversions. So that begged the question for me to kind of do some more deeper thinking. And it really came down to this. The first conversion for me is not on the website, it's the human mind. It's do I even like you? Do I find your brand interesting? Do I find your brand something that I feel that I might want to engage with? Do I want to click an actual CTA, call to action button and become a lead? Do I feel good about that? So I think the first conversion for me is, how's the marketing making a consumer feel, that end consumer? And how does that translate into when they get to the website? Again, kind of how do they feel? Are we converting the human mind to these guys are cool, they're relevant, they're it's an easy to navigate site, as an example. I like the way it's set up. I don't feel like there's pop-ups everywhere and they're after my name and number so they can call and hound me. So that first conversion for me really was, and I've coined this phrase, quite frankly, I've spoken on it a lot. The first conversion to me is not the website click, it's the human mind. Do they even like you? Do they want to do business with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of our viewers would probably have been on a website where they were going to get some information. So many things kept coming up that they just left without even getting what they came there to get.
Yeah, and so we did that. We popped up ourselves to, almost to like I call it like a digital death in a way. It was weird. Like we're like, hey, put another CTA there and put a pop-up here and put a spinning wheel there and do this here. And so all of a sudden, you get onto a site, and especially with mobile, being, for most people, 75, 80, even sometimes 90% of the traffic that goes to a site, it's really difficult when you have like a lot of things kind of coming in and out of that screen. It's got to be so crisp and clean and easy to navigate. So, when you go to some of those disruptors websites, I won't keep mentioning their names, but when you go to some of those disruptors websites, you'll see it's just super clean, super easy to navigate. And so what gave it the validity to me to try, and we did for some of our clients, was the fact that I felt, wait a minute, hold on. They have one website nationally. Right? So one website. I'll mention their names again. Carvana's got one website nationally. That's it. So imagine the team that is behind that website. Imagine the team that's looking at the conversion points, looking at the time on site, looking at the bounce rates, looking at all of those things and the lead to visit ratios. There's no possible way that they made all of those changes and cleaned that site up to look corporate, crisp, clean. We call it negative white space, very easy to navigate. There's no way that they did that and took off all those conversion points to get less leads, to get less conversions, to sell less cars. So it gave me a lot of belief in the system that we would be able to make those changes on a Tier 3 automotive franchise dealer's site. And again, we go in, we do that a lot at Dealer World. Sometimes I'll say it's a XYZ website. I won't mention names of those guys, but it's an XYZ website, company's website, but it's really a Dealer World site because we'll just take over and make all those changes and track the conversion rates and track the lead to visit ratios. To make sure that we were right. I mean, it's one thing if it's beautiful, right? It's like, oh, wow, it looks really great. This is so much better. I love it. But if it's not converting, it doesn't really matter. So the goal really is, aesthetically, is it pleasing? Does it make the customer like you and want to do business with you? And do they feel comfortable? And then the most important part, does it actually work? Is it converting at a higher rate? And the good news is we found out that it does.
Yeah, I mean, if you imagine one of those big corporate sites, I mean, that not only is it traffic from all around the country, so it works everywhere, but it's also an unbelievable amount of traffic. I mean, a single dealership or dealer group would never have access to a data set that size.
They wouldn't. No, but the success leaves clues.
Yep.
So if all of the disruptors that are manning a one site nationally, and then you even go outside of automotive, take a look at Geico, take a look at Progressive, take a look at some of these companies that are doing a similar type of campaign, meaning they use a lot of traditional medias. They use a lot of radio or television or billboard ads to drive traffic, direct hits or organic search to their sites. So go look at those sites. They spend $2 billion a year in advertising to drive traffic to that site. And learn something from it, because again, success leaves those clues, and again, we found that cleaning them up, a little more negative white space, just making it look and feel a little bit better, taking off. Sometimes we've had case studies where we've taken off 50 to 60% of the conversion points on that site.
Wow!
And then it converts better. When we launched that new skin, right? That not a new website, but just a new skin, a refreshed look of it with less conversion points. Mm-hmm. The conversion rate actually went up nearly 20%. So what happens is the consumer goes to the website and maybe they don't feel the pop-up here, and they don't feel psychologically that first conversion that we're talking about. They don't feel like you're after their name and number so that you're just going to call them, as I spoke about. But all of a sudden they go, wait a minute, they have a car I like. It seems to have the right mileage, the right this, the right that. They're making it easy for me to get a trade-in value on my car. So I'm willing now, because this has been a good experience, right? Again, converted the human mind first. It's been a good experience. I'm willing to now go down that road and maybe submit a credit application to see if I can get approved. Maybe submit a trade form to see how much my trade's worth. Maybe submit a inventory request. Is the car still available? But the bottom line is they get comfortable communicating with the dealer at some level so that they do actually become a lead. And so we're seeing those conversions. When I say conversions too, I want to be clear. We're talking about a conversion of a lead. Somebody who clicked a call, somebody who initiated a chat or became a chat lead, somebody who filled out a form lead of sorts. We're talking about a true lead, not a conversion of a scrolling down the page or something. We're seeing true actual lead conversions go up with less CTAs.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's kind of, again, success leaves clues. Every single one of the disruptors does it that way. There had to be something there.
I've never bought a car by accident.
Yeah.
And I think that you're really meeting the shopper where they're at. I'm not going to fill out a form for something that I don't want.
Right.
But if you give me too many forms, I'm never going to find out that I do want it.
Right. Well, and again, it makes it more difficult. We hear from consumers, I think, all the time, like if anybody wants to test this, right? Just go to a family reunion, go to a family dinner, and ask somebody if anybody's shopping for a car currently and how that experience has been going, or tell them to pull up a website. And I guarantee you there's a very good chance of, maybe not 100%, but a very good chance they're going to go, there's too many pop-ups, I'm out.
Yep.
So I think a lot of times the amount of content that we try to stuff in these sites as Tier 3 automotive franchise and or independent stores is just too much, and it makes it kind of a clunky experience for the consumer. So, Dealer World's been doing a whole lot of that work, quite frankly. And it started with, I think you'd get a kick out of this, because, you and I tend to have the same sense of humor. I kind of piggybacked the whole, it's a good time to pave the lot. Everybody was talking about, it's a good time to pave the lot because we don't have any cars.
Yeah.
And so I said, it's also a good time to redo the website, because if we screw up, it won't matter, right? Like this is a great time to take risk and A/B test and see, so that when we get out of this kind of new world that we're in, and you have more cars than you have customers again, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to need a higher performing website at that point. So it was a great time to do that A/B testing.
Troy, that's a good segue to my next question. I've heard you talk about free traffic and dealers maximizing their free traffic. Can you dive into that a little bit and tell us what dealers need to be doing?
Yeah, it seems simple, but I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say it before I kind of came up with this thought process. So if anybody else said it before, let me know. But, this idea of free traffic, all the traffic that goes into a website that is free. It's not really just SEO. We hear SEO, who's your SEO vendor, and who's your paid search vendor, and who does this for you, and social. But as I tried to simplify things for our clients, we started to build out a very robust platform that's basically, one of the first times I've ever spoken about it, honestly, Brian. So as I smile, it's exciting times here. But it's a true jump into business intelligence and data science and things of that nature. So, but as we tried to make it more digestible for dealers and or any user of the system, because it could go down so many rabbit holes, right? I came up with this kind of thought process that, look, let's just simplify traffic into two categories. One, it's free, and two, it's paid. So we started to look at it that way, and it's an interesting kind of phenomenon for me. When we look at it that way, we start to lump in together. It's not just SEO, like I said. It's not just organic search. It's lumping all of that free traffic together: organic search, Google Business Profile, direct hits, referrals, etc.
Yep.
And looking at that as a true asset. That's the key. It's looking at all of that as an asset, because if all of your traffic came into your site and it was free, and you could convert enough of it to sell every car you have on the lot, you wouldn't have to have paid traffic.
Yep.
So somewhere in between that utopian, beautiful scenario that I just painted, and And having to spend some money to, to drive more traffic to the site and to landing pages or conversion points, lies where we normally end up with a client at this point. Mm-hmm. We're looking for ways to maximize the amount of free traffic that we can get to the site. We're always trying to increase the amount of percentage of free traffic to the site in order to reach a successful goal, right? I mean, at the end of the day, dealer doesn't care if it's all free if they sold 50 cars less than they had hoped to sell.
Yeah.
They're willing to spend to sell. But we've always been, I think, very willing to spend. Very, very willing to spend. And so we look at it just a little different these days. We look at, hey, where's all that free traffic? Mm-hmm. How can we maximize that free traffic? How is that free traffic converting to a lead? So how many free leads are you really getting before we even have to start spending money in order to drive traffic to get to your goals? So it's really a base. It's a foundational approach to, hey, when's it time to start spending money? What kind of budget are we going to need in order to hit those unit goals or gross goals that a dealer has? So yeah, I talk a lot about free traffic right now because we just looked at it a little differently. We didn't look at it like, what's our SEO offering? What's our paid search offering? What's our social offering? It was every single hit that's coming to the website that's free. Let's lump it all together, track it, and see how we can maximize that.
That's an interesting thought. Because you that business exists whether you spend $1 or not.
Yeah.
And so instead of saying I want to sell 100 cars, my average cost per car is whatever it is. Now you can say I would have sold 60 anyway, and I want to sell 100 cars. So what's my real cost per incremental sale beyond my free traffic? I mean, is that the point that you're making?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, let's look at it this way. Yep. I mean, if free traffic is coming into my site, and I have 10,000 visitors, unique visitors of free traffic a month coming into my site, I truly don't believe, and maybe there's going to be some audience that disagrees with me, I don't know, but I truly don't believe that we ever truly looked at it as an asset, that we looked at that 10,000 people at our site for free, that is an asset that we need to make sure that we maximize. And what I mean by that is go back to the website conversation. If the website's not set up to perform and to convert at a really, really high rate, well, that 10,000 fish in that pond aren't being caught because the bait's not very good. So we go and we look and we up the level and the ante of the bait, and we make the conversion rates better on the website. So if you just take a site that's poorly performing and has a 1 and 1.5%, say call it a 1.5% conversion rate of all their traffic, whatever it is, and you make it better, you make the site convert better, all of that free traffic, that 10,000 people, hypothetically, now if you've raised it 1%, just 1% better, and we've seen 2 and 3%, but just 1% better, that's 100 more leads. Because remember, when I'm talking about 1% or conversion rates, I'm talking about leads, true leads. So if you have 100 more leads for free because you spent some time optimizing your website, imagine what happens when you optimize the amount of free traffic that you get and you find ways to generate more of that free traffic and you really focus on it and push it. So all of a sudden, now you go from maybe 10,000 users at say a 1.5% conversion rate, which is 150 leads off your website, to maybe now you're at 15,000 free visitors at 3%. That's 450 free leads. Wow. It's quite a difference. So that doesn't happen overnight. It's a lot of work. It's an intense amount of effort that goes towards that. But at the end of the day, if you're working towards that and you're working towards it and working towards that, yes, to your point, all of a sudden the dealer needs to spend less money to sell the same amount of cars.
Wow, and it's like the gift that keeps on giving. I mean,
it's the goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's you turn it on and it works every month.
Yeah, and look, you know this from a long time from us. We're a flat fee agency, so we don't care what the dealer spends. It just doesn't matter to us. Their budget of $10,000 on Google doesn't matter to us at all. If we can lower the ad budget because we've increased free traffic, because we've increased conversion rates, because we have more leads, and dealer has to sell X amount of cars these days, especially these days with inventory constrictions and all the stuff that we're dealing with. If we can do it with less budget, all the better. Go straight to the bottom line.
Nice. That actually leads me to my next question. Traditional marketing. When you and I met, You were doing a ton of traditional marketing.
We
It sounds
still do.
like you still do.
Yeah, oh yeah.
How's traditional marketing working for dealers these days?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when we were dealing with COVID, and not that that's over by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that. I don't want to, but in that kind of heyday when things were shut down and microchips were really a very, very serious problem, traditional media did take a bit of a hit because nobody really needed that extra traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Digital marketing took a hit as well. But I'll tell you why we use it. No different than the disruptors we're talking about. No different than Geico or Progressive or some of these companies that have these websites that they're trying to push a ton of traffic to with direct traffic or organic search because they're like, I'm searching Geico or I'm just typing in geico.com. They do that through traditional media. They do that through a billboard. Example, a lot of dealers won't do billboards. They'll say billboards are old or newspaper. Newspaper is, to be blunt, a little old at this point. But we still have dealers that use it because if you're a Buick dealership in upstate New York,
yeah,
all of a sudden you find a relevancy to the fact that your market still buys the newspaper. So newspaper's not dead, contrary to what everybody thinks.
Yeah.
But take billboards as an example. How did a lot of people find out about Carvana? They drove by a billboard, and this goes not only to traditional marketing, but it also goes to that first conversion that we spoke about. That first conversion happened when the consumer drove by a billboard, and the billboard said, "Car buying shouldn't suck." And the customer started a conversation almost with the billboard, with that brand, and they're driving down the road and they're kind of going, "You're darn right it shouldn't."
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So it's almost
yeah.
conversational. That's converting the human mind. That's that first conversion I'm talking about. Because when they did that, they went, "What was the name of that company? Because I want to check them out." So they've converted the human mind to say, "Hey, I'm a cool, relevant, hip brand that you might want to do business with that understands you," right?
Yep.
And when you get to that point, the billboard did that, the traditional media did that. We're not going to give all the credit to the website. That's the thing I think people are missing. You cannot give all the credit to the website. You got to give credit to the national marketing and branding. That might have been television, might have been radio, might have been billboard, might have been print of sorts, that got the customer's mind to like the brand, to want to go be a direct hit, to want to go be an organic search. That's how they got people to the website.
Yep.
So to answer your question, yeah, I'm a big believer that traditional media still works. We've got a client or two that when they're looking they're in acquisition mode, they'll call me and say, "Where should I go next?" And one of the things that they're talking about is, where can I go where traditional media is going to be affordable because it works. If you're in Chicago or LA or New York, that might not be your play. Traditional media is crazy expensive in those markets. But if you're in a Nielsen ranked market that makes sense, if I were looking to buy a store right now, the first place I would go is the rankings of that market and start to look at how much it's going to cost me to own that market from a traditional media standpoint. Because if I can, I'm going to get more web hits, I'm going to get more direct hits, right? I'm going to get more organic search, and I'm going to build my brand the same way that Auto Trader did it, the same way that Geico did it, the same way that GoDaddy did it, the same way that Carvana did it and CarMax did it. We all think that all that's dead because those guys, we see them as online retailers, but you got to get them online first, and they're using traditional media to do it. So yeah, I think it's alive and well.
Well, we've talked about disruptors and learning from them, and on the way they do their websites, on the way they do some traditional media.
Yeah.
It seems like you've put a lot of thought into this. What else can we learn from these disruptors and the Progressives and the Geicos? I mean, what other lessons can we offer to dealers?
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think when you keep it really simple, it's pay attention to consumer behavior, pay attention to consumer expectations. Pay attention to just what they want, right? It's it's what they want, it's what they expect, it's the behavior and where they're at. I think we can learn a lot from, looking at their websites and realizing that they're not just automotive centric. You don't show up at that website and see 94,000 cars on the homepage. Typically, what you see is a human being smiling. in one way, shape, or form. They're happy. Maybe they're in a car, so there's relevancy there. But it's, if you go to CarMax's site right now, there's probably a girl hanging out a car with her arm going like this, and she's just free as the wind, and she's enjoying life. And how's that make you feel?
Yeah.
Right? And that's again the first conversion of the human mind. How does it make me feel the second the site loads up? So, I feel like we can learn a lot from those guys. Again, they've got one website. They've got one huge national brand. They've got a huge team behind them. I think the family-run ABC Ford in any town ABC Ford has, they got one website as well. Make it great, push really quality, good traffic to it, convert it at a high level, and I've got this thing I call the 12-mile rule that I'll kind of answer your question with as well.
Okay.
I think the one thing that we could learn is if a consumer is willing to be disrupted and try a new company because of the way that they feel, there is, think about the progression of early adopters and whatnot, right? Somebody had to be the first person to try to buy a car online from Carvana.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden somebody saw it, and and that bell curve of acceptance, happens. I believe wholeheartedly, and this is the mission that I'm on, because I want to protect the family. I want to protect the people that have owned a Ford store for 100 years, and they're starting to feel attacked by all sorts of things, right? Electric cars and disruptors and all this constriction and these things. So if they think about it this way, if they could just make the customer feel the same way that the disruptor makes them feel, I believe that the consumer will pick them over the disruptor because they're only 12 miles away. They've been in their backyard forever. They've been doing business. Their grandpa bought his first truck from them. Mm-hmm. Dad said they're good people. Your wife's on a bowling team with them. I don't know, but their hometown. And if we can make the consumer feel similar and as good and like us and feel that we'll give them a trade value quick and easy, just like the disruptor. Mm-hmm. We'll treat them fair and square, just like the disruptor's saying they'll do. We'll tell them that car buying doesn't suck here. We'll offer them a solid inventory. We do all the things and make it easy to do business with us, just like that's the only thing the disruptor's doing different. They still have a car to sell us.
Yeah.
They still got to get our money, get our credit application, get our down payment, deliver us a car, do all the paperwork, which, by the way, as we all know, they're not all that good at. and they're still selling us a freaking car, pardon my language.
That's all right.
So at the end of the day, if we could just make the consumer believe that we're in that same game, I think they'll just pick us. And they'll continue to pick us. And the fight that I'm making now is, I think there's going to be audience listening to this saying, we're still winning right now. I know you are, but the disruptors are coming. More and more every day, all the time, without fail, and as Paul Cummings used to say, zero exceptions.
Yeah.
And so be prepared for it. Be ready. Why would you want to have a website or marketing plan or a branding plan that's outdated going forward? So, that's my play is I think we'd even have less disruption if we could just make the consumers like our experience as much as they like theirs. Because I think they'd say, they're only 12 miles down the street, they've been here for my whole life, and they're pretty nice people, so I'm going to go buy a car from them instead. So I think that's what we could learn.
Nice.
So you can tell I'm a little passionate about that.
Yeah. That's a good place to stop.
Yeah.
Unless there's something else that you'd like to share with our audience.
Listen, I appreciate you having me in to talk about this stuff. I mean, I work hard at it every day, and it's nice to kind of get out of that trench and just come talk about it. It reinvigorates me and reminds me of how passionate I am about it. That's a good place to stop for sure.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us today, Troy.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you.
Yes, you too.
Yeah, awesome,
you too.
Man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Hey, and thank you for joining us as well. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. Hope you join us again in the future soon.